The Faces in the Frame. Part 1. The Second Son. Los Angeles was a city of masks. That's what Mom used to say, back when she still called herself something normal. Denise or Deborah or some soft-sounding name that didn't flicker like static when you tried to remember it too hard. She always said you had to wear a new face every time you left the house, and she didn't mean makeup or attitude. She meant it literally. I was 13 when I first saw her change. It was the middle of summer. One of those dry, yellow evenings in Van Nuys where the heat made the sidewalks blur, and the air smelled like hot concrete and dog piss. We'd just come back from Ralph's. I was carrying bags of groceries. Not much, just the essentials. She walked a few steps ahead of me, silent, her movements always just a bit too smooth, too precise. When we stepped inside, she closed the door behind us, turned to the mirror in the hallway, and pulled her skin off like a hoodie. I dropped the bags. Eggs shattered. Milk rolled. My heart stopped. The face underneath wasn't monstrous. It wasn't reptilian or skeletal or bloody. It was just wrong. Off. Too symmetrical. The eyes too wide. The lips too smooth, like they'd never been kissed or cracked or broken by words. Her hair fell out in clumps, revealing a skull of shifting planes, features that refused to settle. And then, like a sheet settling over a shape, it smoothed again, this time into the face of a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde. Sharper cheekbones. Taller somehow. She turned and looked at me. "Don't stare," she said in that voice that wasn't a voice. "It's just laundry." That night, I locked my door for the first time. And that night, my little brother Dean knocked on it. He was only 6. He didn't know yet. He knocked once. Paused. Then said, "Mommy forgot to close her face again." I didn't answer. Just lay there in the dark, counting how many people lived in our house, and how many were wearing someone else's skin. Growing up in LA, you learn to recognize mass servers. The baristas with eyes that don't blink. The actresses who smile too wide when the camera isn't rolling. The homeless guy on 5th who mutters in Morse code and only ever stares at reflections, not people. But I didn't think they were all like us. I thought we were the secret. The curse. The family no one talked about. Until Uncle Greg came back. He showed up the week after my 17th birthday. No warning. No call. Just knocked on the door at 3:06 a.m., smelling like burnt film and seawater. Mom opened the door in her bathrobe, or, at least, in the skin of Denise again. Blonde. Barefoot. Calm. Greg had no skin on at all. Just muscle and bone, wrapped in a jacket 3 sizes too big. He grinned. No lips. "They're waking up," he said. "The city's thinning. You have to choose which side you're on." Mom slammed the door in his face. I heard her lock it. Then bolt it. Then whisper something into the deadbolt. Something that made it hum. She didn't talk to me for 2 days after that. But Dean did. "Uncle Greg says I'm special. He says I don't have to pretend to be people if I don't want to. He says people are pretending to be us." The next morning, Dean was gone. His bed was cold. His clothes were folded neatly. But his face was on his pillow. Not sleeping. Just there. Soft and smiling and empty. like someone peeled it off carefully and placed it there as a gift. Or a warning. Mom didn't cry. She just turned the hallway mirror around. Then pulled the blinds down. Then took every photo off the wall and smashed the frames. I helped. Because I knew what was coming next. Every 7 years, one of us disappears. Always a boy. Always the second son. That night, I dreamed of our house without walls. Just a stage. Bright lights. Empty space. The ceiling open to black. And someone was filming. Not with a camera, with their eyes. A crowd of them. All wearing our faces. Some of them mine. Some of them Dean's. Some of them we hadn't worn yet. I woke up with blood under my fingernails and sand in my shoes. There was a note taped to my window, written in reverse. Your role is almost ready. This is how LA works. You don't get famous because you work hard. You don't get seen because you're talented. You get chosen. By them. And once they choose you, you stop being you. You become the face someone else wears to tell a prettier lie. My family? We've been supplying faces to this city for decades. But something's wrong now. Because they're not trading anymore. They're stealing. And Dean was just the start. The frames cracked. The film's running backward. And something is climbing out of the mirror we turned around. Part 2, Borrowed Skin. By morning, the house was colder. Not temperature, atmosphere. The walls felt thinner, like the drywall had turned to paper, and someone was breathing on the other side. Mom didn't speak. She stayed in the kitchen, staring at the static on the radio, whispering names into her coffee. Not prayers. Not regrets. Just names. Each one more broken than the last. Thomas. Ray. Drew. Dean. And then, softly, me. I searched the backyard for footprints. There weren't any. But something had crawled under the grass. A channel, like a burrow, leading away from the fence line and toward the alley behind the house. I followed it. Through mulch and chain link and broken toys that didn't belong to us. Until I reached the neighbor's yard. The Garcias had moved out months ago. No new tenants. No lights. But the back door was open. And someone had drawn a frame on the sliding glass door. With blood. Inside it, the reflection wasn't mine. It was Dean's. But older. Maybe 20. Smiling like he knew something I didn't. Wearing a suit he'd never owned and standing in a place I'd never seen. Then he spoke. Not out loud. Inside. You're behind the glass now, big brother. But the casting call is coming. They're saving your face for something important. I ran. Because I knew what he meant. You can't hide forever. Not in this city. Not when your family's built on borrowed skin. Mom finally broke her silence that night. Pulled the old suitcase out of the attic. Not clothes. Not money. Faces. Wrapped in plastic, layered like pressed flowers. Some familiar. Old teachers, babysitters, a version of me from when I was 6. Some unrecognizable. All still alive. Breathing, almost. She held one up, a wrinkled thing with deep smile lines and sun-damaged cheeks. You need to wear this one, she said. It's time to go unnoticed. You're starting to glow. I didn't know what she meant until I looked in the mirror. My skin was shimmering, barely. A sheen under my eyes, like old film stock catching too much light. It happens to all of us eventually. It means the city's ready. Not for you. For your role. We drove south. Past Burbank. Through Inglewood. Into the old studio district where the maps still list sound stages that burned down 30 years ago. But they're still there. If you look at them from the wrong angle. We parked outside lot 33. The gate was locked. But the guard tower was empty. And the door was open. Inside was a maze of mirrors. Floor to ceiling. Funhouse glass. Warped. Each one showing something different. In one I was 10. In another I was mom. In a third I was no one. Just a mannequin wearing my clothes standing in a kitchen that was too quiet. Mom walked ahead without hesitation. I followed. The air inside the maze buzzed. Not electricity. Attention. Something watching. Something eager. We reached the center. A circular room. No mirrors here. Just a screen. Playing old footage. Home movies I'd never seen. A birthday party for a boy who wasn't me, but had my laugh. A wedding where I wore the groom's tux. A funeral where I lay in the casket, grinning. The reel ended. The screen went black. Then text. Audition accepted. Role, elder son, model type B. Face reserved. Prepare for transfer. Mom turned to me. Eyes hollow. Tears of static down her cheeks. This is the price, she said. This is how we stay. You wear what they give you, or they take what they want. I ran again. Through the maze. The mirrors shattered behind me, each explosion a stolen scream. I burst through the exit and back into the night. But it wasn't night anymore. It was daylight in reverse. The sun hung low, red and sickly. The sky turned sepia, like I'd stepped into a movie no one remembered filming. And on every billboard, my face. Smiling. Selling things I didn't believe in. Kissing people I didn't know. Being seen. I made it home somehow. The house was empty. No mom. No suitcase. Just a single frame, hanging crooked on the wall. Inside it, a photo of me and Dean. But neither of us were smiling. Neither of us were real. You could see the stitching around our jaws if you looked hard enough. You could see the seams. That night, I woke up on set. Not metaphorically. Literally. Studio lights above me. Director's chair to the side. Crew members with no faces. Just skin. Pulled tight. Blank. Waiting. They handed me a script. It had my name at the top. Page after page of lines I didn't remember saying. Scenes from my life. But all rewritten. All cleaned up. All camera ready. And at the end of the script, a final line. Remove the mask. Become the role. I looked down. My hands weren't mine anymore. They were perfect. Too perfect. I ran to the nearest mirror. My face was gone. In its place, Dean's. Smiling. Winking. Wearing me. Part 3. Casting Shadows. I woke up with lights in my eyes and someone powdering my cheeks. They were speaking in a voice that wasn't a voice, just white noise shaped like compliments. "You're looking great today, Eli. Ready for your close-up." They loved your dailies. But I hadn't filmed anything. Not that I remembered. I tried to move. Couldn't. My body didn't respond the way it used to. It wasn't numb. It was scripted. Like every twitch of a finger, every flick of an eyelash had already been blocked by a director I couldn't see. All around me, crew members drifted like ghosts, their limbs too long, their faces too smooth. Their shirts all said the same thing. Property of the frame. The set was a recreation of my childhood home. Almost perfect. But not quite. The hallways were longer. The colors too saturated. The photo frames had no glass, just skin stretched across them, pulsing faintly. And every time I blinked, the furniture changed just a little. More symmetrical. More camera-ready. My life, rewritten as a sitcom. A bell rang overhead. Then the intercom crackled. Scene 5. Exterior. Reunion. Cue the brother. Cue the reveal. They pushed me outside. Into sunlight. But it wasn't the sun. Just a massive, artificial orb hanging above the lot, radiating warmth without heat. A set sun. A controlled blaze. And there, standing across the lawn, was Dean. Older. Taller. Confident. Wearing my walk. My grin. He lifted a hand and waved like he hadn't been peeled out of existence months ago. "Hey man," he said. "Long time." The crew cheered. Canned laughter echoed from invisible speakers. Dean stepped forward and handed me a script. It wasn't paper. It was film. Still warm. I looked down and saw the first line. Eli smiles. Accepts his place. Becomes real. I dropped it. Ran. Tore through the soundstage gates and into the studio lot. But the world bent around me. Every exit turned into another set. A new version of my life. Set 1. My high school hallway, lined with lockers that blinked when I passed. Set 2. My first car, parked on a freeway that looped in on itself like a reel caught in rewind. Set 3. A wedding I never had, to a woman with 3 mouths who whispered, "I love you," in 3 different languages at once, none of them human. Everywhere I went, they were filming. Dozens of cameras, all unmanned, hovering, tracking, recording. And each screen I passed showed me from different angles, smiling, crying, becoming. I wasn't escaping. I was giving them footage. Finally, I found a service tunnel. Unlit. Cool. Unwashed. I crawled for what felt like miles. The walls were made of film strips, looping memories I didn't recognize. One showed me as a child, running from a mirror that bled. Another showed me shaving someone else's face. And another showed Dean, looking at the camera and whispering, "He's almost ready." At the end of the tunnel was a door. Simple. Unmarked. I opened it and found the archive. Rows of shelves stacked with faces. Hundreds. Thousands. All floating in preservative fluid. Each jar labeled not with names, with roles. Best friend. Love interest. Victim number 2. Mother distraught. Son unraveling. I found mine. Eli, protagonist, uncast. Still sealed. Still available. I reached for it. And a hand grabbed mine. Cold. Long-fingered. Deep. But now he wasn't wearing me. He was wearing someone else. A stranger's grin. Dad's eyes. Mom's lashes. All mismatched. All wrong. He looked at me like I was a failed costume. You shouldn't be down here, he said. The frame doesn't like improvisation. We had you written clean. A good arc redemption. Tears. But now, he looked up. Now we have to reshoot everything. The lights came on. Harsh. Blinding. Cameras dropped from the ceiling. The crew returned, crawling down the walls like spiders. And the intercom boomed. Scene 0. Rewrite initiated. Wipe the original. Begin replacement. Make him believe. I ran again. But this time, the floor warped under me. Reality flickered. One moment I was in the archive. The next, I was sitting at our old dinner table. Mom served soup made of film. Dean laughed with a mouth that clicked. And my reflection in the window winked at me. I screamed. And the world paused. Like a frame frozen. Then shattered. I woke in a motel. Sweating. Alone. TV blaring static. Phone off the hook. No memory of how I got there. On the bathroom mirror, someone had written in lipstick. You're still in it. The camera never stops. The script is under your skin. I looked in the mirror. Saw myself. Really saw myself. And for a moment, it blinked first. Part 4, the rewrite. The mirror stopped blinking after that. So did I. There's a moment, just a second, where your reflection moves slower than you. You tilt your head, and it's half a beat behind. You blink, and the glass holds it. Not because it's broken, but because it's deciding. That's how you know the rewrite started. I spent 3 days in the motel. Or maybe more. Time was sticky. The clock reset itself every few hours, blinking 12 o'clock like it had just been born. The motel manager only ever knocked once. I never saw his face, but I heard him whisper through the door. Room 304 is not in the registry. Which was weird because that was my room. And when I looked out the peephole, there was no hallway. Just a camera. Watching. Always watching. The frame doesn't need sets anymore. It builds them inside you. Every moment you remember, every trauma you flinch from, every lie you tell yourself just to fall asleep at night, it takes those and constructs seeds. Then it casts you. Then it reshoots you. I found the first sign in my sleep. A single sticky note on my chest when I woke up. Scene 12. Eli realizes his body isn't his. Underneath it, a prop list. One toothbrush. One flickering light bulb. One mirror with blood behind the glass. Asterisk, one line of dialogue. I'm not written this way. Asterisk. I followed the list. Like a rat reading its own maze. The toothbrush was already wet. The light bulb buzzed above me, stuttering. The mirror, well, it was watching now. Not just reflecting. Recording. There was blood behind the glass. Thick. Slow. Like syrup dripping upward. I didn't ask questions, just looked into it and whispered the line. I'm not written this way. My voice echoed back, then changed. You are now. That's when the bleeding started. Not from my mouth or nose, from my memories. I'd close my eyes and lose things. Pieces. Faces. Entire rooms gone like they'd been cut from a reel. And every time something vanished, I'd find another version of it in my suitcase. Wrapped in plastic. Tagged with labels like Alt Mom More Likeable, Dean 2.0, Audience Favorite, New Eli, Season 2 Rewrite. I screamed. No one heard. Not because no one was there, but because the boom mic wasn't on. They finally approached me in person, if you can call them people. 3 of them, dressed like producers, smiling like mannequins, faces smoothed over, mouths painted on. They slid me a new script, thicker than before, hardbound, branded on the cover. The faces in the frame, full series order. My name was at the top of every page, but I didn't recognize a single word. This wasn't my story anymore. I wasn't even the main character. I was just a vessel, a body to deliver someone else's plot. I ran again, out of the motel, into a version of Los Angeles that didn't belong to the world. The air smelled like old reels and fake popcorn. Palm trees flickered like CGI glitches. Billboards advertised shows that didn't exist, starring me, Eli Danner, and the only son who stayed. Coming this fall, You Can't Leave the Set. Renewed. Rewritten. Replaced. I passed people wearing masks that looked like my family. One waved and said, I loved you in episode 6. Another cried and whispered, You didn't deserve the ending they gave you. I kept running. I ended up downtown, back at the theater where Mom used to take us for cheap horror movies on Tuesday nights. Except now, the marquee was wrong. It just said, Now screening your final scene. The doors were open. The inside was full. Every seat taken, all facing the screen. And every head had my face. I walked down the aisle. The screen came to life. It showed me, lying in a bed I didn't recognize, wearing a smile that didn't fit, saying lines I hadn't written. Then a cut to black. And on the screen, final scene, acceptance. Roll credits. The lights dimmed. The audience began to clap. Slow. In sync. Each slap echoing like a countdown. I screamed. This time, it stuck. The sound tore the screen. Split it down the middle. Behind it was a mirror. And in the reflection, not me, just skin, hanging, waiting to be worn. I turned to run again, but this time, I didn't move, because there was no more running. Not when every direction led back to set. Not when every moment had already been filmed. I was already in the edit bay, already part of the reel. Already looped. A voice overhead whispered, Good take, Eli. Let's do it once more for safety. And then the clapperboard snapped. Part 5, Final Cut. The clapperboard never echoed. It devoured sound. The moment it snapped shut, everything around me froze, not like time stopped, but like the world forgot how to move. Dust hung midair. The lights overhead buzzed without flickering. I could feel my pulse, but even that felt dubbed in. And I was alone. Except for the camera. It hovered just in front of me, black lens gleaming, aperture blinking like an unblinking eye. Waiting. Recording. Rewriting. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Instead, a subtitle flashed across the air. Eli looks at the camera. Eli realizes it's always been there. I tried again, louder. Another subtitle. Eli accepts this is not a life. It's a scene. I backed away. But behind me, the walls had become green screen, blank, colorless void. No set. No sky. No exit. Only possibility. Only what they write next. A figure stepped into frame. Not Dean. Not Mom. Not even me. The director. At least, that's what I thought. He wore a suit stitched from unused scenes, his tie looped from boom mic cords, his face a projection of every father I'd ever imagined but never had. When he spoke, the world shuddered. Final cut, Eli. You've been a hit. But all stories end. I wanted to ask what I was. Not who. What? Because I knew now. I wasn't a person. I wasn't even a character. I was the frame. The thing holding the story in place while other faces passed through. The vessel they filled. The structure. And now they didn't need me anymore. The director handed me a new script. 1 page. 1 sentence. Eli smiles and fades to black. I tore it in half. It didn't resist. It didn't matter. Because above me, the ceiling peeled away like celluloid. The sky unspooled, film strips stretching into infinity. And every frame showed a different me. Crying, screaming, laughing, kissing strangers, killing friends. A lifetime of edits. None of them mine. I screamed one last time. And this time, it worked. The screen cracked. The audience shattered, heads deflating, faces falling like masks onto the floor. The camera spun wildly, lens smoking. And from the projection booth, the director ran. Not because he was afraid. Because the scene had lost control. And they hadn't written what happened next. I stood there, panting, under a dead light. No applause. No music. Just silence. Then, slow clapping from behind the screen. And Dean stepped through, wearing his real face. Or at least, the first one he ever wore. Tired. Sad. Familiar. He looked at me like I was a stranger, then nodded. You broke the frame. Doesn't mean it's over. Just means we can choose the next role. I looked at the broken pieces of my script. Then the skin lying across the audience seats. Then the mirror still cracked on stage. Inside it, no one stared back. Just a black rectangle. Empty. Waiting. So I stepped into it. Not because I wanted to be famous. Not because I wanted to be seen. But because if I walked away, someone else would take my place. And I couldn't let that happen. Not to Dean. Not to the next kid caught in the reflection. I stepped into the mirror. And I rewrote the final line. Eli smiles. Eli speaks. Eli says, I am not a role. I am the cut you didn't see coming. And then, I turned off the camera. No credits rolled. No applause. Just the screen. Blank. Waiting. And in the dark, you shift a little. Uncomfortable. Because maybe now the lights are flickering in your hallway. Maybe the photo on your wall looks a little more like me than it should. And maybe, just maybe, you're being filmed too. The end.